Hello and welcome to Devil's Advocate. How does the government respond to the widespread criticism of its handling of Baba Ramdev? That's the key issue I shall explore today with the Parliamentary Affairs Minister and someone who's one of the key interlocutors with the Baba, Pawan Bansal. Mr. Bansal, practically everyone thinks the government's handling of Baba Ramdev was indefensible and inexplicable. Some people even call it madness. Can you accept that you've disillusioned and annoyed a lot of people?
Well, I can't agree with that feeling that may have taken home in minds of some of the people. You've got to look at it from the government's point of view, which is called upon, firstly, to follow the principles of democracy, where discussion is the essence of democracy, and thereby it was the responsibility of the government, the duty of the government, to talk to anyone who raises certain important issues, and thereafter, when after a sort of agreement between the government and Baba Ramdev, when we found that the things were getting out of hand, he was not sticking to what he had said. I remember very vividly he had said, well, I will use that opportunity to rather thank the government for the response that the government has given. So the government had to take that action.
So when I turn around and point out that hundreds of millions are disillusioned and angry, what do you say to those people in India?
I don't think that is so. After Baba's post-Ram Leela conduct in Haridwar, I come across large number of people in the mornings during my walks. I mean, those are only hundreds, not thousands and millions people, but you can have a fairly good idea as to how people are disenchanted with Baba Ramdev now, not with the government on this.
You're saying no one is disenchanted with the government?
There may be some people, he has some ardent followers also, they may be rather miffed at the government action, but the government has a larger responsibility than to just appease some people.
Very interesting word you use, miffed. You're using a euphemism. Let me put it like this. Do you have any regrets about the way the government handled this issue? Because Subodh Khan Sahai has publicly said that the government's strategy was bad and that the government was slow to explain. Would you agree with that?
Well, individuals will have their own views, and it is but appropriate and justified if in a democracy we all have our own opinions. But if I look back to the past few days, I don't think there was anything wrong on the part of the government.
Nothing wrong at all?
At all, I would say that again, because I'll explain because
I'll come to that in a moment, but I just want to reiterate this. You have no regrets whatsoever?
The regret, if at all, would only be that I only wish nothing like that had happened at all. Baba Ramdev had not gone back on his words. The government were not compelled to do what the government had to do. That is all a regret one could have.
I want very much to talk to you about the specific critical details of the handling of Baba Ramdev. But first, let me get from you two critical clarifications. Kapil Sibal has gone on record to say that Baba Ramdev was only given permission for a yoga shiva of 5,000 people, but he ended up conducting a fast unto death with 50,000 watching. The truth is that for days, if not weeks in advance, the whole country knew that this is what Baba Ramdev intended. How is it that the government alone was ignorant?
Well, I suppose the government wasn't ignorant, but government was giving him a long rope for that matter.
But did you end up hanging yourself with that rope?
No, not at all. You see, in fact, if anybody can actually rule that day, is only Baba Ramdev. He's actually, to himself, if I were to put, he's extracted defeat from the jaws of victory.
Well, actually, people say the opposite. People say that the government has extracted defeat from the jaws of victory. But let's leave the rhetoric aside. Let's come back to this Kapil Sibal clarification. Yes. How is it that the government claims it did not know that the Baba wanted to conduct a fast unto death? The whole country knew it.
See, the assurances that Baba was repeatedly giving to the people who were talking to him on behalf of the government was that he wanted some response from the government on different
But you knew he was going on. But you knew he was going on a fast unto death. How can
unto death? He didn't say unto death. Let me make it very clear. No, not unto death. He was saying, "Hum tap karenge." Tap is penance, meditation. He used the word tap.
Forgive me, don't you read papers, don't you watch television? He was speaking to the country repeatedly and saying that he would start a fast unto death from the 4th of June.
Maybe we have failed in not convincing the press and changing its views, or the report is that was there.
Do you accept do you accept that failure?
No, but no, I say maybe, but what I'm saying is, he used the word tap and we were going by what he said. And we were supposed to be. I think we should have gone by what he said. We should have accepted him in good faith.
Thank you. You should have gone by what he said, and I take it you mean by what he said on TV, not what he said to you in private.
What he said to us. Therefore, you see, what he said on TV was quite contrary to what he said to us.
But the funny thing
that was the reason.
But the funny thing is, you're a government. You should have been listening to what he's saying on TV, what he's saying on the papers, and if it was different, you should have asked him about the difference earlier, not get taken by surprise.
The moment we found that he was crossing that line of discretion and decency, I'm using the word decency also specifically because what he said was he would sit on a tap. What he did was later, and when we realized that the things could get out of hands, therefore the government had to take action.
It sounds to me, Minister, not that the Baba fooled the government, but that the government allowed itself to be willingly, with its eyes open, fooled. Let me come to the second.
No, I can't agree with that. I only said government believes in the democratic functioning of the society, and therefore discussion.
That's the second thing I want to question. Do you really believe in democratic functioning? Because just a couple of days ago, P. Chidambaram, as an explanation for what happened, revealed the Baba's alleged links with the RSS, the ABVP and the VHP going back to March 2011. Now, India is a democracy. Is it really the government's position that the RSS, the ABVP and the VHP cannot join a peaceful protest against black money and corruption? Because that is precisely what Mr. Chidambaram was alluding, that this link with these organizations somehow made the Baba's protest more reprehensible and therefore essential to end. That's undemocratic.
You'll have to split it into two parts. One, everybody has the right and the responsibility to fight against corruption, whosoever he be.
And how can you exclude the RSS from that?
I'm saying, let me just complete, whosoever he be. But when they cross that limit, when they go into what Baba Ramdev is doing now, that was done in the presence of RSS people, in the presence of the BJP people. What he said was, I'll raise a force, an armed force.
Forgive me, he said that 3 days later, 4 days later. Let's not confuse the issue.
Therefore you read into his mind. Read into his mind. What is he up to?
What do you mean read into his mind? Are you mind readers?
Well, I'm not, but you've got to see when you say...
You said something very worrying. You said that you were reading into Baba's mind to justify what you did. In other words, you imagined his position and then acted on it.
We acted on his big exhortations to the people at the Ramlila ground were.
Can I interrupt and put this to you? Many people were perturbed when Sadhvi Ritambra on Saturday morning was sitting there with him.
Yes.
Many people don't like her and object to her. But that is not a reason for the government to step in and act. Sadhvi Ritambra has a democratic right to join a protest. The Baba has a right to have her. You may not like it, but you have to put up with it.
But what you'll have to go back to his assurances to the government, to the 4 ministers there, and subsequently to the 2 ministers on the 3rd day, and his actions at the Ramlila ground. He was supposed to be withdrawing it. He had said that he will convert it into a Thanksgiving one, but instead he started introducing more issues into it.
Let's just take that point up. He was supposed to be withdrawing it. Pranab Mukherjee has publicly said that the Baba had given an assurance that the fast would end in 2 or 3 days. Those were Pranab Mukherjee's exact words on television.
That was earlier.
Just a moment. No, it wasn't.
That was earlier.
No, forgive me. This was after Sunday. This was after Sunday.
On the 3rd day.
The fast began on Saturday.
Yes.
Early Sunday morning was the end of the first day.
Yes.
The 2 days.
No, I'm saying the 3rd day of talks.
Let me finish the question. The fast began on Saturday. You swooped early Sunday morning at the end of the first day of the fast. The Baba had given you assurance that he would draw it after 2 or 3 days. There was still a day or 2 left. Why could you not have patiently waited? Why did you swoop in the way you did?
Now, let me make that point again very clear. When I said 3rd day, it wasn't supposed to be the 3rd day of the fast. The first day when we talked to him at the airport, then the 2nd day, then the 3rd day when 2 ministers talked to him. On the first day he had said he would not sit beyond 3 days.
But he hadn't even begun sitting. He only began sitting on Saturday.
Let me please make that point clear. When 2 ministers met him, he had specifically assured them that he would immediately convert that into, and by afternoon he would announce the withdrawal of the entire thing, packing up from there. He had assured them of that. And what Mr. Pranab Mukherjee says 3rd days is he is referring to our first discussion when we had together. But what is important?
I have to stop you because the issue is being confused by this question of when the first day and the 2nd day happened. Look, you said he would withdraw it after 3 days, but it has to start to be withdrawn. The first day was Saturday. That means Sunday and Monday.
No, I'm saying this he said when he met us first. Let me not say the first day.
He was going to...
He said this when he met us first.
In other words, he was going to withdraw it before he began it.
When he met the 2 ministers again, then he did not refer to 3 days. Then he did not say that he will withdraw after 3 days. Then he said that he would withdraw it by the afternoon of the first day.
And didn't.
And didn't. But what is more important is your question, basic question was, why did the government take that action that the government
took? I'll come to that in a moment's time. Let me first pick up on what you've just said. You believe that, in fact, the Baba gave you an assurance to withdraw it. Let's not get caught up in this confusion about on which day and which day.
Yes.
Let's just agree that you had an assurance of withdrawal, which he went back on. Kapil Sibal on Saturday evening made that public when he revealed the letter. The Baba, as a result, was discredited. Many of his followers were disillusioned. The press was seriously, critically questioning him. At that point, on Saturday night, why did you not wait another 24, 36 hours for this whole thing to fizzle out on its own? Because everyone believed that's what was going to happen.
No, let me tell you, I am not really a security-related matters expert. But what little I understand of it is, I am very much convinced about it that that was the only time you could have taken action. Now, if the government were to somehow
explain to me, why was that the only time to send the police in?
That is how I look at it.
Why?
That's how I look at it.
But no, but why?
I'm explaining that. I'm not explaining it on behalf of an expert. I'm explaining it since you are putting me that question. I feel that had the government waited for the next day and sent some people there in the afternoon, you couldn't have done anything.
No,
that time Baba would be sitting there somehow inciting people there.
Hang on.
So therefore, when he was woken up,
I'm going to interrupt you because it's critical. You say that you had to act just after midnight on Saturday because if you'd waited, more people would have arrived. I put this to you. You acted at 1 o'clock at night. Everyone was asleep. No one was coming from anywhere to Baba at that point of time. If you'd waited till 6 in the morning, if you'd given him 5 or 6 hours notice and given him a deadline of 6 or 7 in the morning, what would have been lost? You could have done it peacefully. You could have done it democratically.
I suppose
why did you not do that?
The answer lies in your question itself. Now, when they went to him at 12, he doesn't immediately agree to what or accept what the authorities had to tell him.
Because of the manner in which he did it.
He said, give me 5 minutes, I'll be back. What he does is, he jumps off from the stage, gets on the shoulders of the people, tries to again incite them, and thereafter you look at the visuals. There were no lathis with the people. There were no guns with the policemen. There were brick bats from amongst the people. By then everybody had woken up. They were throwing brick bats. Nothing was being done by the police. Only 8. There were 8. It wasn't even the lobbing of the shells. There were only 8 tear gas.
Minister, just a moment. Before you start making it seem that the police were provoked by the people,
I'm not saying
provoked. That's what you're suggesting.
I'm not saying no.
Let me finish the question, then you go on. What you're forgetting is that you swooped after midnight on people who were peaceful asleep. If you had given the Baba notice and a deadline of the following day, if you had made that public to the country that you had given this notice, the country might have supported tougher action at 6 or 7 in the morning. What the country is appalled about is that you descended with lathis and tear gas on people at midnight who were asleep.
That much you have to leave to the people who have the duty and the responsibility to perform. Had you waited for that time, and what you're saying now is in retrospect. Suppose the things had gone out of hand in those 24 hours.
But they weren't going out of hand, and there was no sign of it.
I mean, government has to figure into all those things. You have to factor in those things. Suppose things had gone out of hands after 24 hours. You wouldn't be saying this.
Well,
what you would be saying is, why did you not take action at the first moment?
Let me quote to you what Subodh Khan Sahai, your colleague and a cabinet minister, is actually saying. He says, we cannot justify the police action beyond a point. Clearly, members of the government have differences over this police action.
See, now this is the way you look at it. If 2 people express different views, you say there is difference of opinion. If 2 people don't express different opinions, you say they're dumb-driven cattle. They all follow one line.
When 2 members of the same government, both of whom were interlocutors, express differences of opinion over a police action that is being criticized by the country, clearly it suggests that there is a difference in the government.
So let me say what the police action was. I'd like to come on that first.
Well, we know what the police action is.
There were clear instructions to them, I understand, that they would carry no weapons. They carried no weapons. They had only the tear gas shell guns, what you call them, and only 8 were fired. They were not lobbed at people.
What about the 30-odd people who were injured, even if they were minor injuries? What about Raj Bala, who is critically ill?
I mean, that's an important question you raised.
She may even, for a person, end up being paralyzed for life.
A very important question, and a fact which distresses me as well. But now you again have to look into it. We must not be swayed by our feelings. You have to look into it. What could have possibly happened? Please ask for the report. What is the medico-legal report? Whether she's been hit by the police or whether she fell or some object fell on her. Unfortunately, something must have fallen on her spine.
Are you absolutely sure that she wasn't hit by the police?
Well, I feel so.
What do you mean feel so?
Well, I wasn't present on the occasion.
So then you don't know.
No,
so then forgive me. Then you don't know.
Please, then don't say that what I'm saying couldn't be correct. What I'm saying is, police had nothing to hit anyone.
You have just a 50% chance of being correct on this. You're conjecturing and you're conjecturing wildly because you want to defend the government.
No. What I feel is, I said that incident distresses me. It feels me sad when I learn that that lady may not be able to walk again at all.
If it leaves you sad, imagine how it leaves her family, her husband and her children.
I agree, I empathize.
How about some apology? How about some apology? Leave empathy aside. How about some apology?
Well, the first thing that the government has announced is the taking care of her.
What about an apology? How about the simple word, we are sorry?
I won't go into those matters at the moment, but what I
is the government too big and too proud to apologize to an Aam Aadmi?
Your suggestion, I'll convey. Your suggestion to this effect, I'll convey.
To whom?
Wherever it has to be conveyed.
Tell me something.
Wherever
it has to be conveyed. Proud that an Aam Aadmi who's injured can't get an apology?
Let me clear that. Apology would be if the government or the governmental agency has done something deliberately somewhere. If in the Mali, now please follow this and just reflect over this. We are talking of the next day or after 24 hours or 36 hours. During the daytime, if the police were to reach that place when Baba was exhorting those people with all sort of things that he was doing, then what do you think people would have done? If he were to be told that they've come to arrest him or anything, then what would how would the people react? The reaction would have been very violent. It would have led to at least 100 deaths there. The government, therefore, in discretion, has not acted that way.
Let me interrupt the flow of language that's coming from you. You're a politician. Let me ask you a simple question. Do you really believe that your voters will be convinced by what you're saying to me, or will they be dismayed? Will the arrogance of the government in refusing to apologize to an Indian, an Aam Aadmi, be acceptable to the people of India?
Let me first say there is no arrogance on the part of the government. Had the government been arrogant, government would not have engaged.
Then it's heartlessness.
The government would have
then
not.
It's heartlessness.
No, please, I can't agree with that at all. That you have the right to use any word that you use. The government never thinks that way. The government has a responsibility to perform, responsibility to deal with situations, responsibility to ensure that any incident or anything, any event doesn't go out of hands, whereby people later would say you could have done it differently. Why did you do it on the third day? Why couldn't you have done it at night? Please ask some security related matters expert. They will tell you the best time for such operations is only night.
All right, let's take a quick break at that point. In the remaining 1 or 2 minutes, I'm going to ask you whether the Prime Minister owes the full explanation to the country or whether just 3 words is sufficient. That's in a moment's time. See you after the break. Welcome back to Devil's Advocate and a fiery interview with the Minister of Parliamentary Affairs, Pawan Bansal. Mr. Bansal, we have time for just one question. When he did eventually speak, the only thing the Prime Minister of India has said is that it was unfortunate but unavoidable. Many people thought that was callous. Others think it's unconvincing and inadequate. Let me ask you, doesn't the Prime Minister owe the country a fuller explanation?
See, a large number of people also feel that this was inevitable in the circumstances, that the government should have acted the way government has acted. People have called up to tell me that this is the time when the government has asserted the sovereignty of the government. This is how different people look at the same situation.
The sovereignty of the government,
of the state,
over Indians who are peacefully protesting.
No. See, I mean, this is what somebody else is saying. You say some people call it callous, but I am just telling you that some people also use those words for this. Therefore, what the Prime Minister said was in a very those measured words, with all the responsibility. He has said, well,
But what about my question? Does he owe the country a fuller explanation?
Well, it was for him to say anything, but he chose to say it in those few words.
Said so little, it was just about 3 words.
But he has conveyed everything in that. He said, I wish only that it hadn't happened.
He's conveyed everything? Or he's hidden everything?
No, but it was unavoidable. He said, in the circumstances, it was unavoidable, and I would only appeal that this is how this has to be looked into.
That's the message to Rajbala, that the injury she suffered, which could paralyze her for life, was unavoidable.
The coming events, the report, the medical legal report, etc., would prove as to how she was hurt. But I said we were distressed at that. But you can't rush to a conclusion to say that it was the police which inflicted that injury on her that way, deliberately, knowingly.
This time round, I won't interrupt you. You're a minister. Let the country hear that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.